Jefferson Elementary School Board meeting to order February 24 at 7:01 p.m. Can I have Ms. Kovarai call members present, please?
Clayton Koo.
Here.
Marie Brizuela.
Here.
Andrea Jordan.
Here.
Manufo Leah Inga Anawai.
Here.
Maybell Monio.
Here. Thank you. We're gonna do the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Valenti, would you like to lead us in that?
Please rise if you're able to. My head here. Put your right hand over your heart. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Valenti.
Thank you.
We'll move on to reviewing our governance team meeting guidelines. And we just noticed that the word was added to the second bullet point from our last governance workshop. And now we'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a vote? Those in favor say aye.
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 Perfect, that was unanimous. We'll move on to board member acknowledgements and accommodations. Let's start off with you, Mr. Koo.
Sure. Just want to wish everybody a great rest of February. And I feel like 2021 seems like a very long year, but look forward to a better rest of the year. Wanted to wish everybody a happy spring. I guess it's coming in a couple weeks actually. And I just wanted to commend all those schools doing all these restaurant fundraisers. I've attended a ton of them. So just kind of want to wish them all the best as they try to fundraise money since they can't necessarily raise it the same way due to COVID.
Thank you, Trustee Koo. Ms. Brizuela, would you like to say any words?
Yeah, just like to welcome everybody to our meeting and to say that I hope everybody had a nice Valentine's Day. That's been passed, and that we look forward to in March, St. Patrick's Day. I especially look forward to that because I share my birthday in March and with my twin sister. So it's a lot of fun for us. So other than that, wish everybody great rest of the month, and we'll talk with each other soon.
Perfect. Trustee Jordan, would you like to go next, please?
Sure thing. I just wanted to welcome everybody back from the President's Week break. I hope everyone had a good time off and was able to rest and kind of regroup and get ready for the second part of this this school year. Technically, still in a pandemic and, all virtual. So hoping everyone is just hanging in there, and we're all trying to be positive and just keep the positive thoughts. We are coming to the end of this this road hopefully soon, and just keep up the positive spirits.
Jordan, and Trustee Laina Anawai, would you like to go?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to all of our presenters, and a special shout out to our personnel commissioners. I'm glad to see you all and appreciate the work that you all do. This is a collective work. I echo all the sentiments that have been shared. Feels good to be back in the grind. I especially was excited to hear that some of our teachers were vaccinated this week, I think today. I think that's pretty amazing for those who had hoped to get the vaccine, and to be able to have that opportunity is to be celebrated, in my opinion. But I also just wanted to excuse some of the background music that you might hear bumping in the back, as we have dance practice going on in this house. And space is very compact, so there's music going on, some kids dancing on one side. So you can move with the rhythm if you hear some music when I speak and get some movement going. But other than that, I appreciate the agenda items tonight. I'm excited to hear the progress that we will be speaking to and hearing from. And I wish you all well. I'm excited for March. It's one of my favorite months of the year, as we celebrate a lot of the great women, you know, in our communities, locally, regionally, and in our country and internationally, as we celebrate a lot of the heavy lifting that women have done, you know, in our community. So I'm excited to be able to celebrate that next week. But be well, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. I'd also like to comment that it's the life on Zoom, right? And we don't, thank you for the disclaimer, but we completely understand. There's a lot of things going on in our households that we just can't control or stop. But I want to just say congratulations to Trustee Buzrilla for making it another year around the sun.
Yeah.
Early birthday to you. And I'm excited for March as well. It's spring is always a good time to consider new beginnings. And I feel like we are finally seeing the light at the end of this very long, dark tunnel that we've all had to endure. But I agree with Trustee Jordan, keeping the positive thoughts, and the news of vaccinations rolling out to our teachers is a win. And we have to celebrate even the smallest of wins these days, especially these days. So yes, everybody take good care of yourselves, and I wish you all well and a happy Women's Month starting next month. And with that, we'll move on to superintendent comments. Mr. Regatta.
Thank you, Ms. President Manio. So some of you have heard that San Mateo County has entered the red tier of reopening on California's blueprint for a safer economy. What that means is that there are less restrictions throughout the community. Some restaurants will now begin offering indoor dining experience. Some movie theaters, I think, will begin offering an indoor viewing experience. Lots of other things will start getting put into place. So that's exciting, you know, and we do hope for these health conditions to continue improving. Many of the metrics that put San Mateo County in the red tier actually qualify them for the orange tier, qualify us for the orange tier, which is very exciting because it's very close to yellow. So we want to make sure that we continue observing all of the practices that we've put into place, you know, wearing our face coverings, staying 6 feet away from people not in our household, washing our hands when we come into the house. You know, all of these things really help us stay safe and help our community stay safe. And as had been mentioned, you know, we did have over, by the end of the weekend, I believe, we'll have over 100 of our staff that have been vaccinated under the educator allowance. San Mateo County Office of Education had a mass vaccination event for education staff today. We had over 90 participate in that. We have about over 15 or 20 of our educators getting vaccinated in different community resource centers. Seton Hospital is doing an educator vaccination event this weekend. Oakland Coliseum, of course, has been doing it for over 2 weeks. So we're excited, and those educators who want the vaccine in our district, at least, will be able to count on having an opportunity to register for one probably here in the next 3 to 5 weeks. So that's very good news for us. I do want to urge any members of the community, if you know folks older than 65, they're all eligible to be vaccinated. We really want our close friends and family over 65 to be vaccinated. They do suffer some of the greatest consequences of the virus. And we want to make sure that our children, when they return to school, don't come home with something that may hurt their older relatives and family friends. So please help them get their vaccine. I know that there's lots of unused spots last week at the San Mateo County event that happened at the airport. Not all the slots were taken. And so please, when you hear of that, look and think about the older, more vulnerable people in our community and help them make their appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Vidales. And yes, I actually wanted to add to that, Samstrand is also giving free rides for seniors to get their vaccinations as well. And moving on to the consent agenda, if there's no discussion, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that motion.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
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 Great, that was unanimous. 7B, we're going to be talking about CAVA at the San Mateo Charter reauthorization. The administration recommends approval of CAVA at San Mateo's petition for charter reauthorization from JESD. We'll have our guests. Thank you for being here with the short presentation.
Yeah, we have two guests from CAVA at San Mateo. We have Ms. Mohammed and Ms. Warren, and they're going to be sharing a presentation for us. I believe this might be their their third reauthorization and fourth authorization from our school district. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share and then April's going to speak to it. I'm going to give April a little caveat. She's been under the weather for 2 days, so prayers and thoughts for her. But we are really excited to be here to present to you tonight. As Superintendent Vidal said, this is our third reauthorization. So this means we're completing our 15th year with the district, which is really exciting. When I put that on paper, I actually thought, wow, my baby was 5 years old and now she's 20. That's amazing how quickly the kids grow up. So again, we're excited to be here tonight. We wanted just to share with you just a little bit of the growth that we've seen since this is just the last 5 years. So this would be during this most current charter. And you can see that overall the enrollment has grown by almost 40%. Predominantly that growth, we've seen it actually in the elementary grades. You can see we were about 200 and now about 425. Granted, this year, I think there was some unique growth due to COVID and for families coming to a school that has been doing virtual education for obviously quite some time. So we have seen a tremendous amount of growth this year, but you can tell it was a pretty consistent growth year over year in the schools. And we also just listed some basic demographics, some of our major subgroups of the populations that we've served. And while we've seen increases, we've not seen a significant change of our demographic. And specifically, if you were to go into the ethnicities, we've been fairly stable throughout the years. But again, these were the more significant ones. Any questions on this slide? We know that you all have the petition and all the documents that were supporting that. So we thought we would take this opportunity to share kind of a little bit about our students and what we've done this past year with them. So April wanted to talk and share some pictures, and we do have releases of any student pictures that you do see.
Thank you, Katrina. Thank you, board. We just wanted, like Katrina mentioned, we just wanted to share a little bit about our students and what virtual education might look like. It looks a lot like what happens in normal classrooms every day. So in our elementary, this is a picture of our students celebrating the 100th day of school, something that I'm sure you see in your district. In the middle is our student, CAVA San Mateo student in our advanced learners program, and his passion project was to create a cardboard arcade for friends and family. And so he did a whole research on what's an arcade and some writing and that, and then he designed all these games out of cardboard. And then we had a pumpkin parade. So students read books, and then they picked a character in the book, and then they decorated their pumpkins as that character. Then in our middle school, there's some pictures from our talent show, CAVA San Mateo students in our talent show. And then I put this picture in here of an outing that took place in San Francisco. This was obviously pre-COVID, so we aren't out in the public right now, but we hope with vaccinations on the horizon that we will be maybe next year. We'll see how that goes. And then a picture from our art showcase, our middle school students. And then in high school, I took a picture from our virtual graduation last year. So as the board may know, that we do a traditional in-person graduation each year, but with COVID last year, we didn't do that. And so we did a virtual graduation. This year we had our very first virtual winter formal, and there's some students there, and our students dressed up, and we had a DJ and we had games. And then for Valentine's Day, we did a karaoke party. So these are the students participating in that. So in addition to focusing on our students, we also wanted to share just a little bit about what we're focusing on as a school to continue in the school improvement process. Our English language development team and our special education team are partnering in our professional learning communities. We transitioned the ELD team under our academic team to build cohesion as we support our EL students. And we've seen some growth in that. Our EL students outperformed the state average. We're also encompassing social emotional learning into all of our programs to support students in and out of the classroom. And we transitioned to analyzing all of our data by subgroups so that actions are specific when we develop and implement them. Our professional learning communities, the goal of these communities is to embrace high levels of learning for all students to improve outcomes through teachers working collaboratively and to ensure a mastery of essential standards. So our PLCs meet weekly. We've done a lot of professional development using Solution Tree and working with Mike Meadows with that. We've identified a guaranteed and viable curriculum, created formative assessments. We're analyzing evidence of student learning and determining next steps for students, providing remediation or enrichment based on the data. And we're driving continuous improvement through our guiding coalition. We also participate in data-driven instruction. We call them our WIG meetings. We're using the book study, The 4 Disciplines of Execution, Achieving Your Wild Important Goals. That's where the term WIG came from. So we do a weekly meeting where everybody looks at their data and then has individual commitments aimed to support our team. So our team's working on 2 overarching goals for the school year. One is to decrease chronic absenteeism by 15%. So in the last dashboard that we have available, 18-19, CAVA San Mateo had a 25% chronic absenteeism rate. And currently right now we are at 11%. So we are seeing a significant drop in that. We're really proud of that. We know a lot of districts are struggling with getting students engaged and working in this virtual environment. And we think that the work that we've done over the last few years, we're starting to see some momentum with that. And then our next goal is to increase math and ELA proficiency by 10%. And then just wanted to share some additional improvements that are happening at CAVA San Mateo. We have our Destinations Career Academy, which is career technical education, serving approximately 10 middle school and 76 high school students. We have various pathways that are all listed here. And we've actually just created an MOU with the California Broadcasters Association. So we're excited to be able to offer that to students next year. As I mentioned, it begins in middle school and continues through high school. And all of our students have a Skills USA membership, which gives them opportunities to meet business leaders, participate in scholarships, that type of thing, competitions, that type of thing. We have an increased social emotional learning, including a new director of social emotional learning. And we've just started a new pilot with Care Solace, which is a company that's designed to connect students with the mental health support that they need in their communities. And then increased academic support. We're using Renaissance Star 360, which we've used for the last couple of years, Freckle Math and English by Renaissance, Mind Play, and Reading Horizons for our students at risk for dyslexia. So that's what's happening at CAVA San Mateo. I don't know if the board has any questions.
Does anybody on the board have any questions?
There's no questions, but I just want to thank you for a very thorough report.
I agree. I appreciate that CAVA has a strong, active, and supportive community. And it's, having you all here has actually helped alleviate our system and absorb some of the need for virtual schooling this year. And we were excited about the CTE track that you guys have, and would love to see how that all plays out in the following year. And thank you again for your presentation.
If you'd ever like any more information about that, we'd be happy to have the leaders of the program speak, especially specifically to the middle school, which would be like grades for you all.
So this is an opportunity for the board to make a motion and second and vote on authorizing this for the next 5 years. I do receive annual updates, and I do try to visit their program at least once a year. And we've been trying to schedule an in-person meetup, and I guess it's off the table for now, but my schedule and their in-person scheduled events have never really jived. So maybe next year I can participate in one of those.
Yeah, we were able to meet in person with Julie. I want to say it was right as COVID was hitting, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was our last time.
Cool.
I have no questions, but if no one else does, I'd like to make the motion and approve the recommendation to approve the reauthorization with CAVA San Mateo Charter. And I do want to commend you all for the amazing work that you do, as stated by President Manio. It definitely is a shared work, and we appreciate the partnership in engaging our students, especially during these times of virtual learning. So I'm happy to make the motion.
I second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Pass. Congratulations, CAVA, for another 5 years of reauthorization. I hope that doesn't mean that we don't see you for another 5 years, but because we would love to have you back and catch up on what has been going on and what you guys have been doing. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay, have a great night.
On to item D, 7D, Personnel Commission's 2020 Annual Report.
We have item C first.
Item C, 2021 CSB Delegate Assembly Election. The board will select up to 3 candidates to be considered as delegates to the CSBA Delegate Assembly.
Yes, so we have the option to select up to 3 candidates to vote for to represent our region in CSBA Delegate Assembly. This year we have 3 candidates. So we can vote for them all as one group, or we can take it apart if we have questions about one. Mr. Koo, are all of the delegate assemblies, are they all returning, or do we have a new one?
We have, so there are 2 returnings. There's Carrie Dubois from Sequoia Union High School District and Gregory Land, who is on the San Mateo Union High School District. There is an opening because Davina Drapkin stepped down from on her board in Burlingame. So Dana Lujan, who is on the Sub-City Board and is also the president of San Mateo County School Board Association, is running for the 3rd seat.
And those are the candidates that are up for election in this round. And there's another round every year, right? It's every other year. Okay.
Yeah, half of the delegates in our region this year, and then next every other year.
So we have more K-8 representation in your year?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I know there's been some changing because another board member in South City stepped down.
Okay.
So so there's like more shuffling around. But yeah,
Okay.
but I've worked with Carrie and Greg for the past how many years, and working with Dana as president of SMCSBA, I know she'll do a great job representing all of us.
Great.
I can make a motion, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that our board select Carrie Dubois, Gregory Land, and Dana Lujan to be considered delegates for Region 7B for this election.
I'll second your motion.
I have a motion and a second. Take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Passed. Thank you for the insight, Trustee Ku. And now we'll move on to item D, Personnel Commission's 2020 Annual Report. Education Code Section 45266 requires an annual report be prepared and forwarded to the governing board outlining Personnel Commission activities. The 2020 annual report has been reviewed and approved by the Personnel Commission and is submitted for the board's information. Welcome, commissioners. Great to see you.
So yeah, I can introduce this, and then Mr. Valenti, you could take over. So every year, the Personnel Commission presents its report to the school board of some of its major activities during the school year, and you have that in your backup. Mr. Valenti has a presentation that he would like to make, and maybe some words from some personnel commissioners.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. How are you? I hope I'm having some internet issues, so I hope it doesn't get too glitchy. I want to start by welcoming Mr. Moore, our commissioner appointed by the board, as well as Mr. Shree.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Our commissioner appointed by CSCA. Unfortunately, Ms. Reyes, who's the commissioner that's appointed by the 2 commissioners, was unable to make it this evening. Mr. Moore, would you like to say a word or two?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I just want to say good evening and thank you very much for having us as your guests tonight, even though we work synergistically together as a group. But I actually want to say thank you for inviting us. And I really enjoy working for the district, and I'm sure that all of you enjoy what you do, even in these trying times. You know, we do have all these problems. We can't wait to have the kids come back under the right circumstances, because they do work, you know, they learn by osmosis, and I think it's very important when they're all together. But until the vaccine and the pandemic subsides, I think we're in for a tough time, but we will just hang in there. But thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Shree? You're muted, Mr. Shreve.
Sorry about that. Anyway, I would just like to thank the board for all their hard work during these trying times with COVID, and you know, Mr. Valente and his staff for the distance learning and the good job that they've done with the teachers and with the classified staff. I just want to commend everybody, and hopefully in a short period of time, we'll be through all this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and proceed with my presentation. Ms. Kovarej, would you like to put it up?
I have it. I can put it up.
Oh, thank you. Otherwise, I can put it up too. Thank you.
Oh, no. I should have realized that.
Can you put it on present, please? Dr. Joyner? Well, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's on a PDF, so this is
Okay,
not.
why don't you let me share my screen? I'll do it. Thank you. Thank you, board members, for your patience. Screen should save. And then let's go to present. All right. Can you see that, everybody?
Yeah, we have a copy too.
Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you again, everybody. This year, as everybody's mentioned, it has been a challenging year. However, we've been able to persevere and accomplish what we've needed to. We have, again, Dr. Dennis Shreve here, our representative from CSCA, Mr. Moore, who was appointed by the Board of Trustees, and Ms. Reyes, who was unable to make it this evening. So our goals for, just get my area position. So our goal number one was to maintain efficient personnel operations. This was difficult during COVID. We have been on distance learning since March 13th. So one of our main goals was to transition to online personnel commission meetings, oral panels, as well as placement interviews in order to continue building our eligibility list and continue with our goal of having fully qualified employees in the classified service to hire. We've also fully implemented our electronic processing of new employees and substitutes, where we can just send them an email and they fill out the documentation as new employees on their computers. We've worked very hard to modify our office procedures as appropriate to accommodate remote working arrangements and to improve efficiency. I want to thank all of our classified staff members who've just been so very flexible. Folks that are usually working at 7:30 or 3 to 6 have really made efforts to modify their days to work around this. And also the expanding of electronic recruitment and application platforms. As far as classified employment, staff development, that was a big goal of ours, and we've worked with CSCA to expand professional development opportunities, inviting classified members to what were prior just professional developments for teachers before the school year started, as well as our regular Wednesday professional developments that occur both at the school site and district-wide. All of this, of course, is done remotely. Working with classified members to offer career advancement guidance and promotional opportunities. We've had a lot of folks that are moving into the teaching ranks, and that's very exciting. And facilitating site and district-wide trainings. This year, some of that professional development that has been offered is in safety, illness, and injury prevention, mindfulness. Of course, our mental health is very important during these tough times. Professional behavior in the workplace, as well as our annual child abuse reporting. All of this is now being done online. We've transferred to a new platform called Target Solutions to provide most of these annual professional developments. As far as maintaining recruitment and selection systems based on the merit principles, our principles are to make sure that people are hired based on ability with an open competition and initial appointments. And we collaborate with San Mateo County Office of Ed and other county schools to update candidate selection resources and broaden our candidate pools. We reach out, we recruit, inter-recruit, and have a good communication base with all the San Mateo County schools. And as I mentioned earlier, the expanded use of online onboarding to utilize PDF and more electronic documents that both certificated and classified personnel now use. We've coordinated and monitored the employee performance evaluation system. We worked with our bargaining unit, CSCA, to agree on an optional self-evaluation procedure that does not supplant the annual evaluation process, but it's a new avenue that we provided training for administrators. I have regular collaboration with our CSCA president and that person with our site supervisors to support classified employees regarding any performance assistance, and to support our new classified employees with appropriate professional development based on their classifications. We began the year looking at updating rules and regulations and reviewing at least one section of the rules and regulations. I must say this is something we did not accomplish as much this year because of the nature of what occurred in March. And this is a goal that I'd like to revisit with the Personnel Commission. Goal 6 is to develop lines of communications in various areas. So to make sure we regularly inform sites and district administration of pertinent information discussed at our monthly Personnel Commission meetings. Also to make sure we attend all Board of Education meetings to coordinate board and personnel functions. And to visit 3 school sites and classrooms during the school year. This year we had to postpone our March meeting. We are going to be doing it virtually coming up. I believe it's in April. We are still in the process of setting that up. So that's going to be, again, a new thing for us. To continue developing our lines of communication, to meet monthly with our CSCA president, Mr. Wes Cole, to receive input and provide feedback. That's been a big change and it's very helpful. And to receive and review regular updates on classified negotiations to ensure that merit system rules and regulations are followed in the contract. We did have to negotiate with CSCA for our distance learning and hybrid learning memorandums of understanding, and we're just about to begin our annual contract negotiations. To maintain an effective classification plan, we monitor compliance with the Personnel Commission's classification plan based on the last classification and compensation study. I believe that occurred in 2014. And our application of rules and regulations to make sure that they're applied fairly, consistently, and in a uniform manner. Last year, we did have a joint meeting with our governing board. And it is a goal, if needed, to improve communication with our commissioners and the board. This evening, we're fortunate enough to have 2 of those members here. Some of the highlights of the commission this year that we had 14 job announcements that were posted, 9 eligibility lists were established, 5 regular appointments with 28 classified staff working summer school. We had 2 employees promoted, 9 employees working out of classification to cover leaves due to illness, workers' compensation, or vacations. We had 6 retirements as well as 6 employee resignations. And as always, I'd like to thank the many individuals that support us by providing oral panels and at our interview panels. It's important to make sure we have folks that have an understanding of the jobs that they are sitting on the panels for. So that's Mr. Breitler, Denise Brown, Leslie DeBridge, Heidi Joyner, Georgia Law, Rosalind Myers, and Annette Shreve. And that's my presentation this evening. Is there any questions I can answer at this moment? It looks like my internet held up, so.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say thank you to you, Mr. Shreve, Mr. Moore, and Ms. Reyes, just for all you guys do on the Personal Commission. I know it's one of those positions that people might not necessarily know what you guys do all the time, but we really appreciate all that you do for us.
Thanks, Mr. Koo. I appreciate it.
Also want to congratulate the Personnel Commission on all the work that you do. And I do have some questions, but I don't want to take up the time for this. It's easy questions, but I'm going to give you guys a call. Maybe I'll be able to attend one of your meetings soon.
Sure.
And
thank you.
So there are some areas that I think that I do have some questions on, and that maybe we can share some ideas on how to improve things for everybody. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
if I can, I'd also like to say thank you to my assistants, my colleagues, Lisa Sue, and of course, Clorinda Lauderdale. Without them, God knows what I would do. You know, they're so great, so helpful. So thank you.
And I want to put a shout out for Wallace Moore. He is our appointee. And I think that's going to be coming up this December, right? On the December 1st. So I'm not sure when that comes onto our agenda, but I know he's doing a terrific job, and I want to thank him for his service.
Thanks, Marie. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
So before you guys check out here, so thank you,
Check
Mr.
out.
Valenti and Personal Commissioners. You know, we began the electronic transfer, the electronic application process and all of these other processes, what, maybe 5-6 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And sort of laying the groundwork. And I believe, and the pandemic, one of the things it did, it just made us jump off that starting block and just go into the deep end of the pool. But I think the many years of slowly working to transfer our documents and our onboarding onto an electronic platform served us at this time when that's all that we could do. So we did not really lose a step. We were actually taking the next step, maybe 3 times faster than we would have. But nonetheless, I think the work that the Classified Personnel Office has done to get us ready really supported our district well to not miss out on filling positions because we lacked the in-person contact that we used to have so much of, and the paper applications and all the things that we couldn't do and don't do anymore. It's all electronic. So making sure that all of our classified staff have emails so that they can check their emails and communicate. That was also a big step. So thank you so much.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.
Also, actually wanted to thank you, Mr. Valenti, for the presentation, and Commissioner Moore and Commissioner Shreve. Thank you for joining us here tonight, and for the entire Personnel Commission. Thank you for your work and your effort and helping us pivot where we need to. This last year hasn't been easy, so I just wanted to say, huge thank you, and we're so grateful that you're a part of our logistics team and helping us get through this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind words. Shout out to Superintendent Valenti. It's done a fantastic job, and we are working board. We work together, and he's fantastic to work with. I must say, the team as a whole. So thank you very much for what you do.
And I'm just going to put a little mention in here. Several years ago, quite a long time ago, that was my beginning, was classified personnel, working in the office and making the rules and regulations when there were none existing. And I look now, we've come a long ways, and it's still in there. And we really need the commission, and we really need to come to celebrate and enhance classified personnel, because it's really important. And I'm really happy to see it's being done. Thank you to everyone that has something to do with it now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate you all. Thank you to the staff.
Thank you very much, board member. Thank you.
Thank you. If no other comments are to be made, I'll move on to item 8B. annual Panorama Survey results, school climate. Dr. Heidi Gardner, Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, will update the board on highlights for the most recent Panorama Survey, which surveys aspects of school connectedness, safety, and climate. The Panorama Survey is taken by staff, families, and students in the fall, and students take it again in the spring. Dr. Gardner?
Thank you. I'm gonna share my screen.
Oh yeah, I have this. Thank you.
Okay, can you all see this?
I have a nice copy.
Okay, so I'm here this evening to talk about our Panorama Survey. So just to remind everybody about our mission statement, Jefferson Elementary School District provides all students a high quality education and a safe and nurturing environment where each student demonstrates a spirit of respect, responsibility, and a commitment to academic and civic excellence. And so as we give our survey, we keep our mission statement in mind. Okay. So just a little bit about what's been going on. As we all know, 2019-20 and our current school year, our community as a whole, and again, just the United States, but focusing in on our community, we've been going through a lot. Our students are in school virtually due to COVID. We've had civic unrest like we've never seen before. And as you can see, the different things that our community has had to endure, as well as being in this pandemic and being at home. And all of the civic unrest and all of the pandemic and the issues that have been taking place are affecting everyone in our community. And for some families, it has a deeper effect. But as a whole, we are all just trying to work through and endure. And so this year has produced an ebb and flow for us in our climate that is vastly different from anything that we've dealt with before. And so with that, I just want to give a little background around climate and culture, just the definition. So the climate is the established by the adults, and it's really about the feel of a school or the feel of a district. And the culture is how the students and the staff and the community behaves in the context of our climate. So our Panorama Survey questions ask, we provide the survey to our families, our students, and our staff. And the focus of the questions center around the climate of our school and our district. They also center around safety and social emotional feelings. And this is our 7th year administering the survey. So this year, given the context of how we are providing education, we've revised our survey questions to reflect our current state of well-being. Typically, the survey, we provide the same questions over the last 6 years so that we can look at and compare the data over the 6 years. But again, given our current context, we did revise our questions this year to match how we are working this year. And we've also this year added more opportunity for individual voice for our community within the survey. And so after a thorough review of the data, we will determine our next steps to meet the feedback that we have been provided. So this year, again, given our context, we revised our questions to focus on relationships, a deeper focus on mental health, and questions, again, that provide individual voice to those in our community. So for our student questions, we focused on supportive relationships, positive feelings, classroom effort, learning strategies, growth mindset, challenging feelings, and emotion regulation. For our staff questions, we focused on school climate, academic expectations, well-being, professional development, professional learning, and we do have 2 free responses, which we will look at. For our family, we focused on family and school communication, learning model, student needs, and again, free response. And the families were given 2 open response questions, and we'll take a look at those. So just to dive in a little bit into some of the data, these are the questions that we asked our elementary and middle school students around supportive relationships. So do you have a teacher or other adult from school who you can count on to help you no matter what? Do you have a family member or other adult outside of school who you can count on to help no matter what? And do you have a friend from school who you can count on to help you no matter what? And our elementary students, 83% of them responded favorably overall to these questions. In our secondary responses to the same questions, 77% of our middle school students responded favorably. So that's a great thing to hear, that students are feeling that they do have someone that they can go to. So sense of belonging, we asked, how well do people at your school understand you as a person? How much support do the adults at your school give you? How much respect do students at your school show you? And overall, how much do you feel like you belong at your school? And so for our elementary responses, 71% of our elementary students responded favorably overall to these questions. And for our middle school students, 48% of our students responded favorably. So this is definitely an area where we will look at this data and make some determinations about next steps, about how to ensure that our secondary students are feeling more of a sense of belonging overall. So I'm going to move on to our staff responses. So when we ask questions around school climate, these are the questions. This school is a supportive and inviting place for students to learn. This school sets high standards for academic performance for all students. This school promotes academic success for all students. This school emphasizes helping students academically when they need it. And this school emphasizes teaching lessons in ways relevant to students. And 95% of our staff who did responded favorably to our school climate questions overall. And then when we surveyed the teachers around well-being, how effective do you feel at your job right now? How meaningful for you is the work that you do? And overall, how satisfied are you with your job right now? 61% of the staff responded favorably. And we do recognize that this is a very difficult time for education. And so teachers take their job personally. And so it's been difficult for educators all around the country. We understand why only 61% responded favorably, but this is definitely a place where we will look at our data and try to figure out how we can ensure that our teachers and our staff are feeling better as the year progresses. So moving into our family responses, this focuses on family school communication. And again, in this year, we've done a great deal more in our outreach to families in the many ways that we can, given that kids aren't at school and we can't talk to them face to face. So the questions were, how helpful has the communication from your child's school been this school year? How clear has communication from the school district been about COVID-related safety measures and protocols? How comfortable do you feel communicating with your child's school? How much do you feel the school values your opinions? And how satisfied are you with the frequency of communication from your child's teachers? 76% of the families who responded responded favorably overall to the communication questions. So there's definitely work to do, but definitely happy to see the responses, the percentage where it is given our current context of education. So this picture comes from the free responses from the questions to the families. And what this does is the questions that appear the most, or that the words that appear the most in the answers are the bigger words. So these words are highlighted. So as you can see, the free response question that we asked, what can school or district leaders do to better support your well-being? I'm sorry, this is for the teachers. And so the biggest words are the words that the responses were the most. So distance learning, Edgenuity, Zoom, plates, and plates really, out of context, you wouldn't understand it, but plates, the common theme was juggling a lot of plates. So these again are the words that appeared the most. And then what is challenging with your child's education that you would like to see improve? This was one of the open response questions to the families. And again, the words that are the biggest are the words that were highlighted the most. So Zoom, distance learning, interaction, assignments. These are the words that were written by the families the most. So these are the two questions for the families, the open response questions. And again, this is just a very, very, very small sample of answers to these questions. So the questions were, what is challenging with your child's education that you would like to see improved? And what is working well with your child's education that you would like to see continued? And so improvement, what's challenging is, again, students, the ability to have our students focused on Zoom or online all day. Very hard for our students to focus, and very hard for any student and adult to focus all day long. More class time. Parents are concerned about kids being on screen all day. And one of the biggest ones was connections with their peers. They want to be with their friends, and families know that it's important to have these connections, as well as they recognize that they can't do it because of COVID. So that was a major concern. And then the things that they'd like to see continue, the activities, being able to email their teachers questions. Some have said that the communication has been good between the school and home, and the district and home. And this one was just, I like the structure of the third grade class and the teacher sending the agenda in advance so we know what to expect for the day. I love the details in the agenda. I love the tools to submit. So it's validating that our staff is working very hard and creatively to ensure that they are communicating with the families. So these are the two questions that we asked staff. What can school or district leaders do to better support your well-being? And what professional development opportunities would help you better support your students? So to better support their well-being, more resources, which was much of the responses was really about resources. And it was, financial resources, resources for the classroom, just any kind of resource to support the teachers in supporting the students. And then for the professional development, distance learning techniques. In the first half of the year, we did focus all of our professional development on distance learning techniques. And teachers, continue to want more, how to help students that are struggling, and they are interested in grade level specific training. And I really enjoyed this one. I need a PD that will help me laugh with my students. We need a morale boost. And so there were an abundance of answers, but these are the ones that stuck out the most. And a lot of the answers were very similar to these. So this is our family response rate over the last 7 years. And so we started in 2014, and our response rate has grown significantly over these years. And of course, we recognize that, all that's going on this year, families are just doing their best to make it each day. And so we're very happy that the number of families that did respond to the survey, but it did go down from last year. And we firmly believe that once we are through COVID and once our kids are back face to face in some way, shape, or form, and there's some semblance of normalcy back in the community, that then families will attend to the survey again. So despite this global pandemic, our students and staff and families are really working hard, and despite the inability to engage face-to-face. And we're really appreciative of all of our staff and our families for providing all the support that they have thus far. And we'll just continue to work and take a look at the data. Hold on. So what will we do with this data? We are going to use some of this Panorama data for the baseline in our LCAP. We do have one of our LCAP goals that is focused on climate, so we will use some Panorama data as baseline. And we will be continue to look at the free response data and come to some questions and determinations about what we can do to better support our community and our staff and our families. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you.
Do any of the board members have comments?
I just want to thank you for the report, and I appreciate all the work you put into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. I had two questions. I wanted to ask, because I did notice on the, what do you call that? Where all the words, where the words were posted.
Oh,
the Wordle.
Yeah.
Wordle, yeah. I'm not technically savvy, but I noticed that ingenuity was one of the words that were fairly large, and then just watching some of the comments and the feedback. And I know in the past we've spoke to programs that we have. I am wondering, if I could kindly ask for a reminder of how we survey the programs. How do we as a board get the feedback around the platforms and surveys on the measurable outcomes that we seek on programs such as Ingenuity? My second one is the survey. It did take a dip, and I too am guessing it is because of COVID. In the past, has it always been virtual, the survey, or has it been hard copies? I mean, maybe during our on-site meetings. So I'm guessing then too that is the impact.
It's been paper and then paper and virtual. So there was an option. This year it was totally virtual.
Yeah, in years past, I mean, the years that spiked, those were the years that schools really made an effort to do things around family gatherings in the fall. Like if there was going to be a Halloween parade, they'd say, okay, before the Halloween parade, come into the MUR and have a donut and fill out your survey. So they had something to do with that. The parade won't start for another half hour. So that was one year our sites did that a lot. And then the next year they didn't do that as much. And then last year, one of the principals reminded everyone, like, hey, remember 2 years ago we did this? Let's try that again. So I think that the fact that we didn't dip too far below 2 years ago is pretty good. I mean, it was very close to an in-person year. But, we didn't have those gathering events that our schools use to have parents take time to fill out the survey. So.
And can you, your first question, I've totally gone from my mind. Can you ask the first question again?
With regards to ingenuity, how are we, because it seems there's some feedback around that and maybe a little bit of concerns, how are we as a district surveying our measurable outcomes, not just with this program, I'm guessing across the board. I just don't recall off the top of my head right now what that looks like for us with regards to ingenuity, how we're getting that feedback on a regular basis, along with other programs that we may be utilizing in our schools. So I'm just wondering how that's happening specifically with this, as you shared in your report around ingenuity.
So we've surveyed the families probably once around just ingenuity in and of itself. We do get feedback from families and students on a consistent basis, and we can, share. I can put something together and share the data around that. But we haven't specifically done a survey of just ingenuity. We ask questions that incorporate ingenuity along with just return to school and various things. So we haven't done specifically a survey just around ingenuity.
I have a question, if I may. I'm assuming it's being done, but are these surveys going out to all parents in various languages?
Yes, every survey that we do goes out in 4 or 5 languages.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're doing that.
Not
that I doubt you guys, but better to ask than to find out later. Okay.
Yeah, so to get back to Ms. Leina Anoai's question, so the analysis that we do on programs over time, most of the programs that we have, we adopt for a period of 7 years, and we keep them for 7 years, and we work with the publishers to try to refine their program, provide additional resources, and we build scaffolds around the program where that program is deficient, because we have this, we have this text series for 7 years before we adopt a different one. Edgenuity is different in the sense that it was a 1-year program. And also, as a company, it's not as easy to build a scaffold around their program as it would be with the hard text, because so much of their program is online and not easily adaptable. So, we do evaluate it. We hear from our teachers, and I don't know if we're going to be offering a virtual only option for 100% of the year next year. But, from what I've gathered, I would suggest that we probably will not use Edgenuity for a second year. It just doesn't meet the needs that we have, and it doesn't meet the promises that were made. And there's not an easy way to scaffold around it and keep working with it. So we will hopefully be in a place where we can welcome all of our students onto campus. And we won't have to do a virtual program. But if we did, then very likely will not be Edgenuity.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. It's good to know that update. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you, Dr. Joyner, for your presentation. I've always looked forward to the results of this survey and paid a lot of attention to the qualitative feedback, but I like that this one focused on the emotional feedback, because that was so important for us to get a grasp of this year. And the insight that it provides is very important to drive practical changes in our district. And I'm very thankful that you're sharing the information on ingenuity. I too have also heard a lot of scuttlebutt around ingenuity just from other parents in the district that are my friends. Do we know what the open rate is versus the submission rate? Did we track who opened it and didn't submit it? Was there, because I have
the survey?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think I have that information. We can likely ask
You can get it.
the survey provider. We call it the Panorama Survey, not because it's panoramic and it gives us a big view, but that's the company that runs it. So that's how we called it the Panorama Survey. Although we could make it the meaning of panorama, meaning wide view and wide perspective. But we can speak to them and see if they collect that kind of information and report back to you.
Yes, I think that would be important information for our coming years if we're not going to focus on giving this as a hard copy or a paper copy out, to see if our parents are even receiving it. And I'm sure some of them don't even open their emails. So I think having that paper copy would have been important to mail out. I get it, it's different times for us, but just so that we're doing our due diligence to reach our families and ensuring that they know that we appreciate their insight and would love to have it. But thank you again, Dr. Joyner, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. This is going to be a fun one. 9D, Workforce Housing Project Update. Mr. Bill Heath, Director of Maintenance and Operations, Construction Program, and Ms. Julie Kessler, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, will present an update on the Workforce Housing Project.
Good evening. I'm excited about the update for you. So the board previously approved the Workforce Housing Project for 56 units. And tonight we're going to update you on the design, the permitting, and the project timeline, the expected timeline. So Bill Heath, Director of Maintenance, Operation, and Construction, will introduce you to our team.
Good evening. We'd like to thank you for this opportunity to update the board and on the schedule and the progress of the Workforce Housing Project. I want to introduce the team that's working with the district to bring this project to reality. Paige Smith with Lowney Architecture, Steve Petrovich with RGM Kramer Construction Management, Mike Conrad with Ovra Construction, and Dave Willard with Sage Energy. They'll walk us through the schedule and the upcoming planning dates, and will be available for your questions after the conclusion of the PowerPoint.
Maria, are you able to share our PowerPoint, or should I put it up?
Dr. Joyner usually does that. Is that presentation? You can do it, Paige. I think
I'll do it.
You have the option. Yeah.
All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. This is the current view of the courtyard of the project. And we are in the construction document phase. We're wrapping it up right now. We're preparing for submittal to the appropriate agencies. There are 2 of them. And Mike Conrad is here, and he's going to tell you a little bit about our schedule.
So this is a graphic of our current schedule. Right now we're on track, and we have been the whole time, which is pretty great. We should be submitting next week for first round of permits. And the permitting process, it's a 2-phase. It goes to NTA and through the city. So we expect to get NTA a little bit ahead of the city process, and then around the middle of summer to be able to be through the permitting process. And for prefabrication, the modular units will be coming from Idaho. And Gurdon is the selected modular contractor. They'll start building the model units first and follow with the rest of the units after we get the models approved, to be able to start construction right after we get the final permits approved on site, and then allow the site work to progress to the point where we can get going with the modulars and on time for around fall. So on-site construction work you should see starting around this summer, and about a year for the bulk of the work of what you'll be seeing on site. And by the end of 22 is the scheduled project completion.
So as Mike mentioned, we are submitting to 2 different agencies. The factory, Gurdon, will submit to an agency called HCD, the Housing and Community Development Agency, and they are had their drawings checked by a company called NTA, which is what Mike was mentioning. So the Housing and Community Development HCD and NTA will work together to review the modular scope. That is specific to what comes from the factory. And so those documents will come from the factory directly in combination with the drawings that Lowney and our consultants have prepared. And the factory will submit all of that to HCD and NTA for us. And on the other side, also on the Lowney side, and in combination with all of the design build team that is under OVRA, will submit also next Tuesday on the 2nd to the city for their review. And both agencies they've agreed to do a quick turnaround, and they're moving forward very quickly. So we're expecting to get those back, hopefully right away. That's our hope.
On the budget for the project, right now we've been having our weekly meetings for the past several months, and everything's tracking well. It seems like we're still holding the project budget without any overruns. The construction team so far, when we were initially selected, with us, we brought Gurdon, the factory fabricator, which is a large component of the project, obviously. But we also brought along a designer, key, and some other key subcontractors. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing, sprinkler, roofing, plaster are the major key ones that were selected back when we were. When we go in for permit, we're going to be going out for the next subcontractor pricing effort following the design build contracting code. So as that goes out for permit review, we'll be getting pricing from the rest of the subcontractors to lock in the rest of the pricing for the project.
So we've heard there's some questions about the photovoltaic system. The building code changed in 2020, right at the beginning of 2020. And so the current code actually requires that a photovoltaic system be included in any new residential project. And it has to cover the anticipated building electrical load. So we are definitely including photovoltaics in the project. It's going to be a system that's under a separate contract from OVRA. And our team is working with OVRA and SAGE and the district to do a best value proposal so that we can get the proposal that's going to give the least cost to the district, but get the district to get as much solar power generation as they can. That system will connect into the house meters at a credit from PG&E. So I mentioned SAGE. The district's working with SAGE Energy Consulting to review and select that best value system. And Mike Williard is here from SAGE, and he's going to be available to answer any questions. And that's where we're at. That's our whole presentation. We'd love to have some questions.
So much, Ms. Smith and Mr. Conrad. Do I have any questions from members of the board?
I have a question. Ms. Smith, thank you for the presentation. I actually had a question for you regarding the photovoltaic on top of the site on your last slide. I know you mentioned, so I know that when we were talking about the project initially, I know solar was something that was in the works already. Is this in addition to what we were already planning, or is this sort of a new regulation sort of placed up on top of this from the state?
Actually, both. Okay. So the old regulations required that buildings be solar ready. So the project was always assuming that we were going to have to put in conduit and prepare the structure so that it could support a PV system on the roof. And it wasn't until the new code came in that we realized not only are we going to have to be solar ready, but we're actually going to have to put the solar panels on in order to get an occupancy certificate.
Okay, thank you. And in terms of the timing for getting this sort of set up for the project, does that affect the timeline anyway, or is it just sort of kind of working hand in hand with the prefab and other parts of the project?
We're definitely keeping them together. Yes, working hand in hand. They both have impacts on each other. So it's important that we keep them rolling at the same time.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Thank you.
I have no questions. I just want to say thank you, and I'm excited. I'm sure we're all excited. We could all use some good news. And you know, we take great pride in this project. You know, we have the high school district that have kicked theirs off, but I have to say that I think we actually started our conversation first. Yeah, it's the competitive spirit. It's the competitive spirit, but it's good competition. I mean, it's wonderful that together as two local school districts, this is an initiative that we get to kick off and really has resonated with other school districts throughout the county. San Francisco even has taken great interest in seeing us do this. So we're very grateful for the opportunity to have this on track. I appreciate hearing that the timeline is pretty much on track despite the update with regards to the new policies that are in place now, or guidelines that have to be put in with regards to the update you've just provided. But thank you so much for tonight. I'm going to hold on to this information and celebrate.
Yes, I agree with Trustee Laina Anawai. This is definitely a win for the district, a win that everyone nationwide is looking at and trying to emulate. So I love how progressive we are, and I appreciate you guys all being here and helping us move forward with this. One question that I had is, do you guys foresee any delays happening in the future? Is anything coming down the pipeline? Are there other regulations that you may have heard of that we might need to meet, or any other timing delays?
There's nothing on our radar right now. It seems like everything's moving pretty well through pre-construction so far. It can always be a surprise, but right now it looks great.
And I know I've asked Superintendent Vidales before, but I just wanted to put it out there in public. When can we expect groundbreaking day?
I think if you look on that schedule that was provided, it still looks like, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like June, July time that we could expect a groundbreaking to
Yeah,
happen.
it'll depend on the exact date of the city approval process, but that's correct. We're shooting for the middle of the summer coming up.
Yeah, and what I am especially excited about, if you see that start the work on site in June, July, and then start setting the modulars like 2.5 months later. That's pretty amazing. I mean, and if you guys remember the process, I mean, they will arrive one day and then they start being stacked, you know, within a few days after that. And then, you know, all these other subcontractors that we could come in and start patching things up and plastering and laying the plumbing, but the structure will be there. You'll be able to see the full outline of the whole project within, I don't know, I've never seen modular construction go up, but I'm imagining within a couple of weeks, we'll have the basic structure of it. And then it's just
pretty exciting.
Yeah.
How fast it takes shape.
Yeah. And, you know, traditional construction, you see one floor at a time and each floor takes a couple of weeks. A modular construction, we'll see all the floors and all the buildings in relatively close time to each other. Some of the other things that, you know, we're not prepared to discuss today because there's not much to discuss, but just to let you know sort of what's down the road. We're investigating the creation of a nonprofit that will be managing this facility. I know that the board doesn't want to deal with leaky roofs or plumbing, and we know that with the contractors we have, we won't have to deal with any of that for at least 10 years. But, you know, down the road, those things happen to any building. The board doesn't want to deal with those kinds of concerns. You're a school district board of education, and you deal with school district matters. And so the recommendation that other agencies have followed is to create a separate agency, separate organization that oversees under the board or maybe alongside the board, but a separate legal agency that does it. And the board doesn't give up any of its ownership rights, but does give up some of its management rights. So we're investigating that at this point to see what the ideal makeup would be, discussing it with the San Mateo Community College District to see what they've done and other agencies that have set this up. And then, so that's the biggest thing that'll be coming down the pike. You know, I know staff are eager to get on a wait list. And so we need to decide how much of that do we want to start before the nonprofit agency organization is set up, and how much do we leave up to them? We need to make that decision. Yeah, that's the basic thing. Oh, the other big thing is sort of financing for this this effort. We have a big sum of money from the bond that we're going to put toward this, but it doesn't complete all of our construction costs, and so we need to seek some financing options to complete those, and then determining what we do, you know, once the units are built. How do we move forward? I know Ms. Kessler is setting up some meetings to get some advice around that we'd be bringing to the board as well.
Is there something that can be done, like some places that are being built, they have homeowner associations that actually do some of that stuff? You know, collecting.
It would be sort of like a homeowners association.
Yeah, because that's really important. If it's mandatory,
yeah.
You can make it mandatory, then they have to belong and they pay dues into that. And that is what covers expenses to make sure it's working. So, you know, I deal with that in Broadmoor, so I know what it's like. And it's been operating since, I hate to tell you what year.
Yeah.
Not that I've always been doing it, but, you know, so when they first built it, that was built in there as mandatory. And then this way, everybody pays their small amount, fair share, to make sure that the place is kept up right. Otherwise, it can become a ghetto without us realizing.
It's a different structure because they are rental units and not owned.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. They can do
something very similar.
Very similar.
Yeah.
It's called something else, but it's said property owners would be the fact that they live there. But it helps keep the expenses so that it's being able to function. And then they get to go, some people will be able to be elected by the folks inside of that community to serve, to represent them. So it becomes part of, they want to do it. So let's look at something that we can do to make sure it's maintained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's one of the big things that'll be coming to the board to approve in the next few months, I think.
Yeah, very important.
So any other questions on this? I think it's exciting. You know, it's so hard. So much of this work happens in the background. It was 3 years in the making before we even got to the Planning Commission, and you know, they approved it, and now things are starting to move ahead, and we've onboarded Overum to be our construction contractor, and they've brought their team to help with all the finishing. You know, it's going to be exciting, especially the quickness of it once it gets going.
Are we going to have a celebration for it? I like parties.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I hope we can have an in-person. We definitely can have an outdoor celebration.
Yeah,
we'll see what the guidance suggests.
Yeah,
that time.
I just think it's really good to promote what we're doing for our staff and for our neighborhoods and our community. And if we do that and it's outdoors, it's good. It's good for them to know what we're doing.
Yeah, we will definitely adhere to whatever guidance is being given by health department. We don't want to end up with a rally like outdoor rallies that happened last fall.
Bernie, I think you know.
No, I'm telling you,
we can handle it.
Yeah,
we can handle it in a safe, wonderful manner. But I think we need to let the public know what we are doing for our community, because a lot of times they don't know what we're doing. So let's not talk about it too much now, but as we approach it, I hope that we'll remember that we do this.
I actually do have a question. President Mateo, is it okay if okay, perfect. So this is awesome. Thank you for the presentation. I feel super blessed to be inheriting this project that already was, you know, kind of spoken about and brought up prior to me even joining the board. So this is super exciting. I do have a question on how often we'll be getting updates as things are going along. Just to make sure that we're able to kind of see this through, and obviously if any hiccups or any changes in the timeline happen, that we get that information as well.
We can certainly give updates when we hit the benchmarks to the board, and just as informational items, we could put them in the information bulletin just to let the board know that we've passed certain benchmarks. And if there are any issues that need to be addressed, we'll certainly immediately bring it to the board.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks very much for giving us a chance to present to you guys.
Yeah,
You're
thank you. It's
welcome.
an exciting project. We're excited to be part of it.
Thank you all for your time.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
And one more little jab to our sister district. We're actually going to be completing before them. We are a little smaller, but it's okay. Moving on to our next agenda item, 12A, Board Policies Administrative Regulations. December 2020 CSBA Board Policy Revisions, first reading. The board will review and revise Board Policies Administrative Regulations from December 2020 CSBA Board Policy Revision as stated in a first reading. Mr. Vidales?
Yeah, so you've got the revisions there in your backup. Most of these are related to modifications in state law. Nothing too major that I can remember. So if you've read it and you've got some questions, and we can note those. But this is a first reading, so we will bring them back again for a second reading.
Discussion from the board. If not, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the revised Board Policy Administrative Regulations from December 2020 CSBA Board Policy Revisions as stated in a first reading.
Second that motion.
First and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 You. On to 13A, CSBA 2021 Kent Awards. Superintendent will discuss revised process and seek direction for submitting a JESD nomination for consideration by the San Mateo County School Boards Association.
So as you know, the San Mateo County School Board Association has sponsored for many, many years what are called the Kent Awards, and they're awards given to school districts and schools as part of them for innovative programs that have developed in their school districts. And there are various categories. Some were classroom-based awards, some were school-wide awards, some were district-wide awards when it was a district program. And one year we received an award for inter-district program that we had with the high school district. So there are a lot different categories of awards. Mr. Koo can speak to the background on this, but this year the School Board Association has decided to award every district one award for a program that they have developed or utilized. It doesn't have to be a new program, but that has really stood out in this time of pandemic and increased support to students, families, and staff. I'm sure we'll see lots of different examples across the county for how to do this. So it's just one submission. The recommendation that I would have for the board to consider submitting, because this is it now, the responsibility is on the board to submit a program versus on schools just to request to be nominated and then selected to go forward. The recommendation that I would have for the board to consider would be our school counselor program that we have. This program, it is the week that we designated to celebrate School Counselors Week, so it's almost appropriate. But this program, the school counselor program, has really stood out among many programs in our school district because they've been we had the infrastructure of school counselors at all of our elementary and our middle schools. They were available and ready and have been supporting our students through some of the difficulties that this pandemic has brought forward. They've been instrumental in helping and supporting our families connect to resources in the community for assistance with food and with rent, and even more counseling that they're not able to do through their program. They meet individually with students in a virtual setting to do therapy sessions. They have some groups that they lead. Let me see what else. They support staff with some of the struggles that they're having in their classroom and with their jobs. They can't be personal therapists to staff because they are school counselors for students, but they are resources, and they can help connect them to other supports that might exist in our community. Another aspect that has really ballooned over this time that they've really been providing support and become point people for have been some of the attendance issues that have surfaced. We may not have attendance issues that show up on paper because students attend for part of the day. They don't attend the full instructional time. There's a lot of learning loss because students aren't there the full time. And so counselors are part of the team at the schools that help support getting our families and our students to make arriving and being present in the school class more often. So, as I look across the district, I see a lot of excellent programs. I see a lot of wonderful instruction. I see, our food program is great. But when I think about it, I think about what might other districts benefit hearing from, I think about our counseling program. And I think that we have an opportunity to highlight their work, highlight the structures that we've put in place, and be able to nominate that for an award.
Can I ask a question? I know that everything you said falls right. Very good. And I appreciate what you've chosen. But in my understanding, to get a Kent Award, did they change the rules that program has to be in existence at least 2 years or 3 years?
Those were the previous regulations. Mr. Koo, you might be able to provide some of the changes that were made for this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this year, the group deciding the Kent Awards thought it would be a little bit different. Just understanding that a lot of programs that would have been in place for a couple of years might have been disrupted during COVID. So they couldn't necessarily have taken place for part of last fall or last spring. So they didn't want to necessarily put a sort of an extra barrier for programs trying to be able to qualify for 2 years. Also, one of the tough things related to Kent Awards is a lot of SMCSB board members do on-site visits to understand the programs. So with COVID, it makes that a lot tougher. So you wouldn't be able to actually see those programs in action. You wouldn't be able to actually hear from teachers and staff on a one-on-one basis on how that actually has helped them or not. So the idea is that they were going to postpone that traditional Kent Awards process for a year for when schools can actually reopen. But in the process, be able to recognize each school, because every school district has had extremely challenging times over the past 12 months or so, and just be able to let each school district recognize some academic, social, emotional, a bunch of other services that the district provides as ways to sort of recognize them for all their hard work and sort of be able to showcase that for each school district.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's been one of my favorite functions that we've done before.
Yeah, because we had one. We were supposed to have a ceremony last spring.
Yeah.
It got postponed due to COVID, so they had a virtual one this year, or last fall, as a way to sort of recognize those schools. But they thought that sort of that short time span for this year wouldn't just be possible. Yeah. So I think the idea is that they're going to try to have that next year, but this year is meant to be more of just kind of recognizing those programs that actually made learning and teaching a lot more doable for districts.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So in the documentation that the email that I received, it said that they want school board members to write the note, the letter for the program. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I will write a draft of it, and I would like 2 school board members who would like to read over and ask more questions and make some comments and revisions to that before we submit. Director of Student Services, Ms. Stephanie Martinez, and I will get a good start on it. And then if you guys let me know that you're interested in it, I'd certainly be happy to get your board eyes on it, and we can submit by the deadline on March 15th.
I would like to serve on that. I'd
Okay.
be interested in knowing that. Thank you.
I would as well.
Okay.
Great. So we have Mrs. Brizuela and Ms. Jordan, who will serve as additional writers on this. And so we will set it up so that we can share the document with you, and then you guys can make your comments, and we can make the revisions appropriately.
Superintendent Vidalis, I
Yes.
just wanted to ask, how many counselors do we have? Do we have a counselor at every school site, or do we have floating counselors? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I can't give you the
A rough
full
estimate?
FTE amount. Maybe Mr. Valenti knows the number because that's his job. But we have at least a half-time counselor at every elementary school. Some elementary schools have a full-time counselor. Some have 3/4. Every middle school has at least 1 full-time counselor. Some have more than 1. So, Mr. Valenti, what does all that add up to?
I don't have my calculator right in front of me, but it's basically what I was going to say is that a majority of the schools have chosen to pay for a half, an additional half, but everyone has at least a half a time counselor.
I want to say we're approaching 20, if not exceeding 20 in the counselors. We only have 14 schools. So,
Question on that: if you have a half of a counselor at a school, and does that mean that he works at another school the other half time? So it's one person with a split? No.
Yeah, one person.
We have one employee that just does a halftime. That's her entire shift per that person's request. But the rest do 2 schools if they're halftime.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your microphone went weird again, Miss Manio.
Oh no.
Yeah. I didn't know you spoke. Sorry. I was waiting.
Can you guys hear me?
Barely.
Barely, but go ahead. I'm listening carefully.
We're listening now.
Okay, sorry. I was saying that we appreciate your recommendation, Superintendent Vidalis. I believe that counselors are the pillars of our district that bore a lot of the weight. So this house didn't collapse under the new pressures this year. And thank you, Trustee Jordan and Trustee Brizuela, for taking the helm on that. There's no vote on this, so if we could move on to 13B, CSVA Equity Network Information Discussion. Superintendent will share a proposal on Equity Network participation and discuss dates offered to schedule sessions.
Okay, so I need to really apologize for this. Can we move to some of the other items? I forgot to pull it up and have it ready. So if you just give me 5, if you just move on to the next item,
okay,
and then come back, we can do this. So persons wishing to address the board, I think we have 1 comment, and then the government's team comments and reports. That'd be great. I'll get this ready.
Okay, no problem. Item 14, persons wishing to address the board on unagendized or closed session items. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda or an item addressed in closed session. We have 1 speaker card. Mr. Koo?
Yes, we have 1 speaker card from Aislinn De Leon, a parent. The message is, Dear school board members and Superintendent Vidales, I'm writing to express my concern over a perceived lack of transparency regarding the plan for JESD schools to reopen. I've attended every publicly broadcast meeting and am well informed that the plan adheres to San Mateo County Office of Education Pandemic Recovery Framework, which is based on the CDPH guidance documents for schools. I also read in the meeting minutes from January 13th board meeting that students will return to school when local health conditions meet the criteria previously established by the governing board. Well, what I would like to know is who helped direct the governing board to establish these guidelines. Were any health experts involved in the decision-making? Pediatricians, infectious disease specialists, epidemiologists. The CDPH guidelines were republished again January 14th, 2021. Were these guidelines reviewed? If so, why hasn't any of these been made public to us parents? I find it extremely difficult to understand why both San Francisco and San Mateo counties need to be in the yellow tier before school will reopen. It has been almost a year since my son has been put out of school, and I strongly believe that it is imperative for him to return as soon as possible. Our neighbors who attend private schools have been back for at least 6 months, and they have had no issues in their schools. Other districts are returning to in-person education. Why is JESD not discussing this further? Today's board meeting agenda doesn't even show this as a topic of conversation. Additionally, on the JESD website, the link for the COVID-19 information for news and updates hasn't had anything posted since April 7th, 2020. This lack of information and the obvious lack of discussion among the board is disheartening to say the least. I continue to hear that school will open when it is safe. What exactly does that mean? Are we to believe that teachers and staff are staying home and not interacting with the general public at all so they are safe? As a nurse, I've not had the option to remain home or work from home since the pandemic started. What I know for sure is that it is virtually impossible to socially distance when providing patient care. Not one of our over 200 staff members on my unit have contracted COVID from any interaction here at work. Mask works, appropriate hand hygiene works. San Mateo County is now offering COVID vaccines for all people that work in education. Is this being promoted among staff? Is it being prioritized so staff can be vaccinated so school can resume again as quickly as possible? The CDC recently published new return to school guidelines. Are these, sorry, I think I might have cut off her message. Sorry, my bad. I cut off part of the message. Okay. The CDC recently published new return to school guidelines. Are these being taken into account when discussing return to school? I've included a few links that may be helpful, including the most recent CDC guidelines. I appreciate you taking the time to read this email, and I look forward to a reply. Best, Aislinn De Leon. And that is the message.
Thank you, Trustee Koo. Well, thank you for the comment. Number 15, governance team member.
Oh, actually, I'm ready now. We can go to 13B now.
Sure. Let's go move back to 13B, CSBA Equity Network. Superintendent will share proposal on Equity Network participation and discuss dates offered to schedule sessions. Mr. Vidales?
Yes, so at our last meeting, we discussed the participation in the Equity Network. I did reach out to Nicole Anderson, who's a facilitator for this work. And she came back to me with some possible dates. I'm going to share my screen here with her proposal that she sent us. I think what we have to do tonight, and if you look in this area here, you see what some of the content is, as well as some of the outcomes. But what we would need to do tonight is select the first session. And she's given us several dates and a suggested sequence. But if we selected the first session, then I think we can hammer out and select the other sessions at the first session. It'll take some 20 minutes to figure out which other sessions. She's suggesting a time frame of 6:30 to 9:30, 4 sessions for that time period.
For the first one, you mean?
For all of them, they would all be 3 hours. But if we, if we can look at our calendars and see if March 19th or April 1st might work.
Well, April 1st, that's April Fool's Day.
Yeah. Only fools would have a board meeting on April Fool's Day.
I'm just saying, I'm just kidding you.
I'd actually prefer the 1st over a Friday night.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Because March 19th is the Friday, right?
March 19th is a Friday, yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
So I don't know who's a bigger fool, Friday night board meetings or April 1st board meetings.
I think, well, I think we can make a.
Make an exception.
Yeah.
So does an April 1st work?
Sure.
I'm good either way.
Okay. We could think of it as it's really April 2nd, you know, in Europe by the time we start meeting.
I wish we could be there.
Yeah,
No.
and by the time we finish, it'll be April 2nd in New York. So it really wouldn't be meeting on April Fool's Day.
Okay. I just was trying to get some humor here. Okay. It's fine with me. I have nothing scheduled for that day.
All right. So if it's okay with the board, I will get back to Ms. Anderson and let her know that we'd like our first session to be on April 1st, and then we'll select the remaining sessions at that meeting.
Okay. The only thing I wanted to ask is when it says June 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
that's like
those are her available dates.
Okay, and
those
then
are possible dates.
Okay, that's okay. I see. So it's not that many days we have to go.
No, it's just one of those days. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
All right. So put that in your calendar. April 1st, 6:30 through Zoom. It'll be a virtual session.
Well, you'll be sending us out an
of course.
agenda notice on that, right?
Yeah, but just put it in your calendar so you don't plan an April Fool's Day party.
I'm not going to. I'm gonna say no.
Great. We can go to the next item now. Thank you.
Okay.
And I appreciate you being flexible with the item. It somehow slipped my mind to bring it up earlier.
It's okay.
Of course, thank you. Okay, on to the next item, number 15, governance team member comments, reports, board meeting reflection. Trustee Brizuela, would you like to go first?
Sure. Well, I just think this meeting was full of a lot of good information, which I'm really happy about. Feels like we're really working on building on many different aspects. I was glad to hear about the housing, how it's going, and I just think everything we're doing is very positive, considering we're at home. Can't get to do a lot of in-person stuff, but I'm really proud. I'm proud of the Personnel Commission, what they're doing. I think they're doing a great job. Their report was probably the finest report I've seen in a long time. Very, very professionally done. So I want to thank the commission for that. Other than that, I'll let someone else say something nice.
Thank you, Trustee Brizuela. Trustee Koo?
Nothing much. Thought it was a really great, efficient meeting. We talked about a ton of topics, so it was well informative. Just kind of hopeful for all the good news regarding sort of the decline in COVID cases, as well as the expansions of vaccines all across the region, across the country. So look forward to hearing more good news, hopefully, as we head into the spring and into the summer. I just want to wish everybody a happy rest of the week as well, too.
Thank you, Trustee Koo. Trustee Jordan, any comments?
Absolutely. So first off, I actually wanted to thank Superintendent Vidales just for everything that he's doing to help me kind of acclimate to being a new board member. All of the conversations and the questions that that I'm asking and the discussions that we're having has been super helpful. I also wanted to thank President Mateo and Trustee Liaiga Anuai for reaching out to me and, showing support and saying that you were there for me as I, for lack of better words, drink from a fire hose with all of the information that I am basically receiving as a new board member. And so I just am very grateful for the support of the entire board as I, learn the ropes here. I also wanted to say this meeting went really well. Again, I'm super happy that I've inherited not only a great team, but some really great projects and programs that are coming up in our district. And so I feel very blessed and honored to be here. Lastly, I wanted to report on the food distribution that I did with Woodrow Wilson. It was absolutely amazing. We served 124 families. The volunteers were awesome. The community was awesome. And obviously the families that received them were extremely happy and grateful for our service there that day. So I do want to give a shout out to all the volunteers, and as well as Principal DeLanda for his support and keeping that going. It's a great program, and I look forward to actually volunteering there again in the future.
Thank you, Trustee Jordan, and we're definitely glad to have you here. Trustee Laina Anawai.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'm just soaking up the energy. It's definitely a great meeting. It's wonderful to be able to celebrate a lot of the great happenings. This week for me too when I say fulfilling, I think of you, Superintendent Vidalis. This week for me has definitely been some celebrated milestones. Last night, I was able to testify and offer public comment at San Francisco Unified's Board of Ed meeting because they actually had a special meeting which allowed for the presentation of the newly formed NHPI, which is the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Initiative. So they are the first that have created a pipeline and a pathway in the state, and my understanding outside of the charter school in Utah, the first in the country. And I think that it's an exciting time because they've built in so many pathways. But for me, when I say milestone, in the 60s, Sabona Civic Association was formed by community leaders, and they spoke about this. And when I was in 3rd grade, they formed 4 other organizations that only spoke about these things happening. So to be able to celebrate with the community last night and thank those who have done this heavy lifting and providing us a blueprint as a school board to replicate and customize and introduce to our districts, not just around NHPI, but every other ethnic group and culture and heritage that can use this and customize that sense of learning, was just rewarding. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, when I leave this earth, that's a box that I can check off. As a community person, I was able to sit in that meeting with my children in the background, just like my mother kept me next to her when she was advocating for this many years ago. So it's exciting, and I invited them to come and present to us at some point. So I do want to make that ask to Superintendent Vidalis and President Manio to connect the dots, to have them present to us, because I definitely think that we have a lot to learn and how and speak to how we will be able to introduce this in our district and in the county. I also want to touch on redistricting. I sat on the redistricting meeting that was hosted by Thrive today. The next meeting is next week. I think it's March 5th, if I'm correct, but I'll follow up. And I think these are important conversations because they impact us as a district and as a city. And there was something that I appreciated that our colleague, board trustee Kalima Saludin, who talked about how we need to revisit our lines as a city because we are lumped together with San Francisco, which does not allow for us to have appropriate and equitable representation as an assembly district. So I really want to encourage us as a board and as community members to participate in the redistricting conversations. But other than that, I thank you so much for sharing the weekend at Woodrow Wilson Elementary. We know that so many families go without, and I think it's so important that we have programs such as these. And I love that we can say that you, like Trustee Koo, is out there representing us. Every time one of us is there, that's all of us. And I'm grateful for that we're represented, in every way possible. But I'm really grateful for tonight. And I thank you all for all of the leadership that we are seeing in our district and in our communities. But thank you for letting me share the things that have had me overjoyed this week.
Thank you for sharing that, Trustee Lane Anawadi. And absolutely, I would definitely like to follow up on that great news that you've shared with us today. I just want to say that this was definitely a year where frustration and feelings of stagnation came easy. So it's important that we celebrate our wins so that we feel the progress that we're actually making. And I also wanted to give a virtual pat on the back to the entire board and our administrative staff here for keeping your composure. It was, I don't know if you've been listening in the news and what's been happening to other districts in our neighbors, but speaking to our new word in our guidelines that we'll be respectful. We're not only respectful to each other and our staff, but also to our families as well, and asking for their opinions. So I definitely wanted to acknowledge that on this board. I think this is such a great team, and I'm so super thankful that I'm included as a part of this. With that, if there's no other comments, we will convene to closed session.
Do we have to go off and back on?
Yeah, we should take a little break. It's 9:02. What do you guys think coming back?
Well, it doesn't mean that I needed a break. I just want to know, sometimes we do that. We stop and then we start. I just want to know what the next step is.
What do you think, Ms. Manio? You think we turn back at 9:10?
Yes.
We can turn off our mics and turn off our cameras and then come back at 9:10.
I'm gonna log out and log back in if that's okay, just for a mic check.
Yes, okay. I will stay logged in, and I think Mr. Koo, you're also a co-host, so you, in case something happens to me, you're still